Ladies and gentlemen, the North Atlantic seal hunt is an industry which has for too long been discriminated against. Now, over the course of the last decades, even though the hunt has continued on for thousands of years, over the course of these last few decades, the seal hunt has come under a great deal of opposition from animal rights groups and from misunderstanding members of the general public. Now, I'd like to explain exactly how this has come about and offer some possible changes that we can make to our own opinions on the seal industry, to our own approaches to the sealing industry. Because given the right public relations, we'll be able to see that the seal hunt is both profitable and environmentally sound. But now there's nobody in the room that can tell me the seal hunt doesn't have a bad reputation. Everybody from Bridget Bardot to WKRP in Cincinnati has come out against it at one time or another. But why is that exactly? Well, because of the information spread about by animal rights groups such as the International Fund for Animal Welfare and Greenpeace. Now, Greenpeace made international headlines in the 1970s by protesting against what it considered to be a cruel and a barbaric hunt. Most of their opposition dealt with the fact that baby seals were being hunted to satisfy world fur markets. Thus, the population base had begun to decline, and the demonstrations at this time served a very important purpose. So what's wrong with that, you ask? Well, nothing. Nothing at all. The industry was reformed because people got together, people saw a problem, and people worked to change it. The problem is, animal rights groups still use the same information, still use the same propaganda, if I may call it that, today, 20 years later, even though baby seals haven't been hunted for decades. William Shatner, famous for his role as television's bold space explorer, Captain James Tiberius Kirk, spoke out against the seal hunt recently by saying, "To slaughter those baby seals is inexcusable." Inexcusable, Mr. Shatner. Indeed, it is inexcusable. Because those baby seals, Mr. Shatner, haven't been killed for decades. And everybody, from the International Fund for Animal Welfare to Greenpeace, to the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, to the Canadian Sealers Association, to the consumer, you and I, right here, today, will agree that killing baby seals is wrong. And that's why we don't do it. Now, it seems like a bit of a moot point there. So why do animal rights groups continue to enlist the support of misled, washed-out media icons to propagate what is a misinformed, an outdated, and a malicious message? Malice is the only way we can describe these arguments. We see the IFAW's full-page ads in the New York Times decrying Canada's hunting practices, accusing her of animal rights abuses, portraying hunters as barbarians. But barbarians, why? Barbarians because they're engaging in a hunt based on sound environmental principles. Because they're engaging in a hunt that emphasizes whole animal utilization. Because they're engaging in a hunt that doesn't have anything to do with slaughterhouses, chemical injections, or serious, stringent industrial regulation. Now, to many utopians, this industry would be the perfect one. But no, we're given the argument that the hunters are terrible for killing this endangered population of cute little white fur balls. Now, first of all, and I've already proven to you, the cute little white fur balls aren't the ones that are being killed. Second of all, the population is not endangered. The population has never been endangered. The population is, in fact, right now, today, as we speak, overpopulated, and grossly so. There are 5 million seals in the North Atlantic right now. 5 million seals that are great big animals. very big, vicious animals, 3, 4, 5, 600 pounds apiece. They're not cute and cuddly. You wouldn't want to have one scurrying around your house for a little pet. But this animal eats, on its own, over a ton of juvenile codfish every single year. And now, we're a little bit distant from the North Atlantic cod fishery right now, but I think we all know, we have a fair idea of what the situation is, in that the northern cod stocks are so endangered. And the effects that bottom dragging, for and overfishing, and the seal population have had on the destruction of the northern cod as a viable species. So we have 500 million tons of juvenile codfish being consumed every year, and these 500 million tons of juvenile codfish, which amount to millions upon millions upon millions of fish, don't get a chance to replenish their own species. So we see the environmental imbalance in the North Atlantic that's going on right now. And it is because the seals have very few natural predators. We are, in fact, the seal's only significant natural predator. We've seen that polar bears have been their natural predators. They're endangered too. Sharks and killer whales, they're really not very common in the North Atlantic at all, at least not where the seals are. So we have to stop trying to remove ourselves from this ecosystem and involve ourselves once again, as we have done for thousands of years. And it's not only for the environmental standpoint that we have to do this. It's not just because we have an environmental responsibility. It is also because it can be very, very profitable for us. In 1997, a small-scale North Atlantic seal fishery brought $11 million into rural areas of Quebec, Newfoundland, and Labrador, where unemployment is high, and the government dollar is the dollar upon which most people subsist on. Every sealer that could go out and make a few of these $11 million is a sealer who did not have to rely on the government. He did not have to rely, and she did not have to rely on welfare payments, did not have to rely on social services, did not have to rely on unemployment insurance. We as taxpayers did not have to pay to keep this person alive. This person had the opportunity and took it to make a living for himself, for herself, had the opportunity to provide for their families, had the opportunity to provide for their children, to improve their standard of living. And why would we argue with that in such harsh economic times? Especially when the industry involved is small scale and based on sound economic principles. So that's a very important question. It's a question that the animal rights groups have asked themselves very, very often. The answer is simple. They're not out protesting against other industries, protesting against corrupt industries like the beef industry, for instance. Animal rights, native land rights infringements, human rights abuses are all going on in the beef industry. That's not being protested to such a high degree, nor is the northern cod fishery, because codfish and cattle are simply not cute and cuddly. When was the last time you saw some celebrity rushing off from Hollywood on an airplane and pooping down on the ice and shivering cold and picking up a poor codfish and saying, "Oh, my poor treasure, why should we be killing you?" No, that person is going out on their lunch breaks and having a fish fillet at McDonald's like the rest of us. But when we think about killing that small, adorable little white baby seal, we can't bear it. Most of us are fairly comfortable with eating beef or wearing leather. I understand it's a regulation that one must wear leather shoes at this school. We're fairly comfortable with things like this, but when it comes to the seals,